Local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Mark 30.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today is Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln. Ed, always good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks. Thanks
sure.
for having me on.
Yep. Hey, I'll tell you what, after you take care of the Eagles tonight, next week when you play the Giants, what I want you to tell your guys, I know you've got the inside track, Ed, because you told me you're a part owner or something like that.
I am an owner.
You are an owner of the Packers, so use that pipeline. Tell them just run that score up. I'm sick of these Giant games where they're winning late, and I'm like, hey, we might win this week, and then no. So just run it up, get it, put me out of my misery early, and I can go off and enjoy my Sunday.
All right, I'll do that. Yeah. I'll
So,
get on the phone there and set that up for you.
Yeah, for sure. I know you're probably gonna have to wait till tomorrow, but that I'll let that slide. So, anyways, hey, best of luck with Philly tonight, though. Hopefully, you knock them off. That would be a good win for the Packers for sure. Well, Ed, let's dive into the weather. Weather probably just as crazy as the NFL season right now. We go from feeling like fall to feeling like winter, and maybe we're gonna feel like summer by the end of the week. What is going on here?
Wow, yeah, we got just a blast of cold air, and it's coming with strong northwest winds that behind this low pressure. So definitely feeling wind chills are in the teens, even approaching 10 degrees above zero only. So it's a rude wake up. Winter's kind of saying I'm here, and then it's going to go and hide a little bit. So yeah, there's some heat building out west, and then we're going to have a little bit of a shift, and pretty much each day this week is going to warm up a little bit more by the next weekend. Just looking fantastic, really.
Well, let's go back to Friday, Ed, where Friday was very nice, very pleasant. Same for Saturday. We thought Saturday was going to be kind of miserable, with a lot of wind and cool air coming in. But Saturday ended up being very nice. And then we just get blasted with cold air, even snow some places yesterday. Everybody's texting and posting on the social medias. It's snowing because we live in the Midwest and that's a thing we do. So what happened between Friday, Saturday, and then into Sunday? What happened there?
Sure. Yeah. We had a pretty strong low pressure system just come literally directly across Illinois. And, it had the makings of a kind of a winter system, although being early in the season here, we didn't have as much snow, but those flakes were really big. It had a lot of energy with it. So when it did produce snow, those flakes, were making a hole in the ground as they hit. So, and it accumulated. Peoria, where I live, had just shy of a half inch, 3/10 or so, but, as it was flying around, it was reducing visibility on the road. So it, kind of made things a little hectic there for a few people probably on the roadways. But yeah, that low pressure system packed a punch in terms of, cold air, especially, and just the surprising windiness as the snow was falling kind of make it look a little worse than it was.
Yeah, you saw the snowflakes flying across the road at points yesterday. It looked a little more ominous than I think it was, but even still, snow in the first part of November. It's been a minute since we've seen that.
Yeah, we haven't had that in a while. About 3 or 4 years ago on a Halloween morning, we got 3 to 5 inches of snow in a lot of the area, but this has been a while. Since that, it really hasn't done this. We haven't had early season snows since then.
Yeah, I can remember as a kid, we were doing our Thanksgiving things, and we'd be driving in the night, and there'd be snow flying. I don't remember if it accumulated, but yeah, it's just it kind of takes you back a little bit, that snow in November. But like you said, Ed, we're gonna gradually warm up here day by day. Let's get a day by day outlook of what we're looking at here for highs and lows and conditions and all those things. What's this week hold for us?
Sure. Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet in terms of we could see a few flurries yet today, although accumulating snows that's done. But the wind chill is really going to be what affects everyone today, and even tonight. We're going to get down to 21, so even a little cooler tonight than we were this morning, because the winds are going to weaken up a little bit overnight. So it's going to be pretty cold, and then we start to see the warm up begin. The winds are going to start to shift out of the southern, westerly southwest to start, and then eventually southerly here this week. So on Veterans Day, there's just a little clipper actually coming through. So we could get a few sprinkles, during the day on Tuesday, Veterans Day. Nothing of substance, though. That really the whole week is looking dry all together for the most part. 48 on Veterans Day, 57 on Wednesday. So that's a significant jump up because today's 36, Wednesday 57, 20-degree jump in 2 days. That's noticeable. Then we kind of stay there for Thursday in the upper 50s, but Friday by far is going to be almost near 70. Saturday definitely. We're forecasting 72, so I'm going out on a limb and 100% chance of beautiful 70-degree temperature that day. So it'll be breezy on Saturday. So football games might have a little bit of wind throwing things around, but temperature-wise, just fantastic.
Unfortunately, my football season has come to an end, Ed, and now I'm looking at when can I get out and get these leaves blown around. I got a few trees with some leaves just hanging on. They're starting to change the color a little bit there. You talked about that breeze on Saturday, and even I don't know what Sunday's looking like, but are these going to be a couple of days I can get out and maybe move some leaves around?
Yeah, you will. And a lot of times I wait for the wind to blow my leaves away into the neighbor's yard, so I don't have to deal with them as much. But it's going to be windy, so you're probably going to have to, get what's falling as you're raking, because if they aren't all down by Saturday, it's going to still be hitting the ground as you're raking. But it'll be a nice day. You'll be able to get them all up, I think, because we're pretty much at the point where the leaves should, for the most part, most maples should lose their leaves this week.
Okay.
The oaks, on the other hand, are like holding on to them with death grip because they don't lose those until like December and January.
Got it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Man, I go back to our conversation last month, Ed. You all have to be everything over there at the Weather Service, and today you're the arborist of the show.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, how about
That's
that?
right.
That's funny. Very good. Well, Ed, as we catch up here for this morning, of course, what is going on that we're just kind of seeing these highs and lows of weather patterns? What's going on with us right now?
Yeah, that's kind of a fall feature because you've got cold air. It's building up in Canada. There's a lot of cold air. Some areas of northern Canada are below zero. So there's cold air, and if you get a little bit of an intense low pressure system coming across southern Canada and drops through the Midwest, it's going to drag that cold air down. But make no mistake, out west it's still mild, 70s, 80s, 90s, even maybe not 90s, but at least 70s and 80s. And that air, just a little bit of an oscillation, and you'll have wind chills near zero, and then the next day, or 2-3 days later, you can have 60s. So, because that warm and cold air is very close together right now. That's kind of the fall, makeup of air masses at this point. So that's why some of these storms can be very, very volatile. Today's the 50th anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking, and that low pressure just went right up and over to Lake Superior. That was a very intense fall low pressure, which can happen because those very cold and very warm air masses can be in close proximity, creating that release of energy in the atmosphere.
And we're kind of right there on the border of where some of that stuff happens, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. We're kind of in the battleground here in the Midwest. Whenever there is deep low pressure systems, they almost always try and take aim, generally take aim in the Midwest.
Sure. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest here on the Zoom for this morning. Well, Ed, let's get into the rest of the month. What are we in store for here? What are we looking at for, say, let's see, this is going to be the 10 through the 4th, let's say 11 through 15. We'll say 16 to 30. What are we looking at the second half of the month?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we've got, one low pressure system coming on Sunday morning. There's going to be maybe even a few storms with a cold front. As we have really, really warm air that usually ends with some kind of stormy weather. So Sunday morning could be a few rumbles of thunder, but then after that, it looks like we dry out, and we generally stay mild. I mean, the outlooks are really, quite warm. 6 to 10 day, we're in the 80th to 90th% chance of having above normal temperatures, from the 15th to the 19th, and then we look the next week beyond that in the 8 to 14th. We're in the 60 to 70th percentile chance of being above normal. So comfortable fall weather all the way through pretty much the 23rd, the 3 to 4 week outlook. Then we start to cool off right at the end of the month there. Start to have some colder air potentially kind coming back, but certainly nothing, highly impactful temperature wise. It doesn't look like, there may be a few storms toward the end of the month. So we'll have to see if any of those affect Thanksgiving, because the entire rest of the month, the precip outlook is above normal. 6 to 10, 8 to 14 day, and the 3 to 4 week outlook is above normal precip. And it's, 50th percentile, 40 to 50th percentile. So it's tier 2 of the above normal trend there. So I would suspect we're going to hopefully get some beneficial moisture in the ground that's not snowy and causing travel problems for us Thanksgiving. But we'll just have to see where those storm systems are right around Thanksgiving, because I get a little bit of a pause when I see there's going to be a cool down at the end of November and above normal precip is forecast during that period of time. So we'll hopefully keep that under wraps, but we'll watch that closely because it's a huge travel period.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving travel is some of the biggest of the year. So
right. Yeah, we'll keep an eye to that. Ed, let's talk about where do we start November in terms of temperatures? Where do we end November? And how about precipitation in November? What do we usually get for precip? How about those talking points?
Sure. Yeah. Upper 50s is where we generally are for normal highs, and then upper 30s for normal lows at the beginning of the month. And we dramatically changed that. By the end of the month, we're in the mid 40s and upper 20s. So that changed when you drop below freezing for normal lows, and then the highs are normally in the mid 40s. It's definitely noticeable. We're getting towards that winter season. December 1st is the official start of meteorological winter. So, we can have some cold days and very cold nights even at the end of this month potentially. But, I'm just kind of looking. That's where we settle out temperature wise. Precip wise, we usually get about just shy of 3 inches of moisture. So, take that for what it is. Normally for us, we've had rain in November the last 3-4 years, and not much snow at all. And we typically get about a half inch of snow, 0.6 during the month on average. And we just had a little bit fall periodically here this last weekend, but so we could see, upwards of an inch of snow by the end of the month on average.
Okay. So still that possibility. I was going to ask that. Is there a possibility some of that above average precip is snowfall at some point?
Yeah, I think that last week of November, we really will have some chances of some, because if the 3 to 4 week outlook shows below normal temperatures, right, just kind of dividing across central Illinois and colder north, there's going to be a low pressure system coming and bring some cold air. So I would suspect we're going to have, some potentially, snow heading into the area this month late.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll keep an eye on it, Ed, and of course we'll keep tabs with you as we go along as well. Let's take a break here, my friend. Come back with some more. Where do folks go to learn about all things weather service, weather data? Where do they find it all?
Weather.gov/Lincoln.
That's Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, our guest on the Zoom. More to come with Ed on the morning show.
WHOW.
Closeout time is here for a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Yes, we have a good selection of 25 Silverados remaining in regular and crew cab models with gas or diesel engines. Some with utility beds and dual roof wheels. Also see our remaining Colorados, Trailblazers, even our full-size Suburban and Tahoes, all priced to move out. See our 25 inventory today at BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
WEZC, your easy choice, 95.9 FM, is the voice of the Monticello Sages. Also streamed and archived at DeWittDailyNews.com. Hear live play-by-play football, boys and girls basketball, baseball and softball, all season long. And a best of broadcast every Saturday at noon. All brought to you by Kirby Medical Center, First Mid, and Stewart Family Hardware, all in Monticello.
Now there's one web portal for local agriculture radio programming in central Illinois. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Local farm programming streamed live and archived to hear anytime. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Hear the morning and noon farm shows with local agriculture news and interviews. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Plus hear all of your favorite agriculture farm shows including RFD Illinois, AgriTalk, RFD Today, and the Closing Market Report. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. It's agriculture grown locally, streamed live, and archived to hear anytime. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. A service of the Miller Media Group.
AgriTalk is the radio talk show for American agriculture. Hi, everybody. I'm Chip Flory, your host. We join you weekday mornings from 10 until 11 on WHOW, on AM and FM, and on the WHOW streams. We provide farmers and ranchers with timely insights and information aimed at improving their operations. Join me, Chip Flory, weekdays at 10:06 on Central Illinois Ag Station, WHOW.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom, Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln. And Ed, as we chat for today, we went over what November is going to hold. Sounds like we could be a little wet to finish things out in the next week or two here. But what are we looking at for December, January, and February, our traditional winter months? What are we looking at? What did the outlook show?
Sure. Yeah, we've got temperature-wise, it shows equal chances. So about 33% chance of above, 33% chance normal, 33% chance of below. But below normal is closer to us than the above, and it's in the northwest and kind of extending down towards Illinois. So my estimation is that there's going to be some cold snaps. We're in a La Nina winter signal here, so the oceanic temperatures are a little cooler than normal. So that generally produces a more persistent or frequent troughing or low pressure system travel through the Midwest. And then the above normal precipitation outlook kind of coincides with, we may get a little bit more wintry weather here this winter. I know, last year in Peoria, I think we only had about 12 inches of snow the whole season. So I didn't use my snowblower once, but this year it looks like we may get a few more frequent bouts of wintry weather and potentially some impactful, days where travel might be a little bit hazardous. So
yeah, well, and of course we got to keep on the possibility of ice with some of this snow. Obviously winter weather can rear its ugly head in a way like that, where you start with some sleet and some freezing rain, and then it turns to snow. We've seen that enough times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we are kind of the centroid of where freezing rain events occur in the United States on average. We have about 4 to 5 days of freezing rain every winter season on average. So it's just, we seem to fall in that battleground between where the cold air is producing snow and where the warm air is causing rain. And then literally DeWitt County, I think, is in the bullseye of this, where we peg about 5 times a year. So it's just a frequent thing that we deal with. And it can be really hazardous, because if it hits the ground when it's really cold and dry, that road turns to a sheet of ice just at the beginning of freezing drizzle. And that's where really things go off the rails quickly, because you're not expecting it. You can't really even see it. You see your windshield wiper may need to go on because it's a little bit of water hitting it, but you don't realize the road is frozen at 26 degrees and bam, you're in the ditch in no time. So, those days can get really tricky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Well, Ed, so looks like we could be in for a wintry winter season in terms of the weather. Did you give us the temperature outlooks? I apologize if you didn't.
Yeah, it's equal chances of above or below normal.
That's right. Yeah.
But in La Nina winters, we typically see some cold snaps that are like noticeable. Okay, holy cow, this is really cold. Because there's really cold air that's allowed to kind of sag south. And I think looking at the polar vortex, it's a little bit wavier jet stream around the poles right now. So that might set the stage for this winter to have a few cold snaps, especially January, February. December did not look all that cold in the outlooks by the months. But January, February kind of tipped the balance towards, being closer to below normal temps. So I would suspect that, our typical winter months, January and February there, but we could, see where you're going to need to do some, travel adjustments at times with these winter weather events.
Sure. Ed, let's talk about how dry we are right now. I should have started with that, given the wet finish to November we're anticipating at this point. How dry are we right now? What's the latest on that side of things?
Sure. Yeah, I just plotted since August 1st, we're still about 5 inches below normal precip wise. I know we had a couple of beneficial rains in there last month, but really not enough. We're obviously in significant drought conditions. We're in tier 2 drought right now. Yeah, DeWitt County is D2 severe drought. So that's actually tier 3. There's D0, D1, D2. Severe drought is D2, and it goes up to D4. So in that extreme drought, level 4, D3, is Piatt County, almost all of Piatt, and a good chunk of Champaign right now. So we're and it's mainly the surface soils. As you get to 8 and 20 inches, the monitors are showing we're not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that surface level up, above 8 inches is pretty dry to the point where we're, in that severe drought condition right now.
Sure. What kind of winter are we going to need to maybe snap out of this? What kind of, and even let's maybe even plot the end of November, where we could see some pretty good rains. You were talking about the outlooks there. What kind of finish to November are we going to maybe need? And then what kind of winter are we going to need here, Ed?
Yeah, if we don't get a frost depth, then the rain and precipitation that falls and maybe melts will be able to soak into the ground. The problem comes if we get a persistent early frost that sticks around for a while. Typically, we don't have a frost that lasts that long. We'll get a big cold snap. It'll frost down to about 5-6 inches, and then it'll start thawing out. But if we get a good 6 to 10 inch frost, that'll stop us from being able to get any moisture into the replenishing moisture into the soils then.
Mm-hmm. Ed, I want to make sure we get to this. Let's wrap up with Winter Weather Preparedness Week. Big week for the Weather Service. A lot of good information going out. Let's dive into that to close us out today.
Sure. Yeah. Every day our social media is going to be a different topic, running from, snow and driving with snow, ice and preparations with that. Very cold temperatures and making sure you're prepared for those. Having a emergency safety bag in your vehicle, because you never know when you're going to become stranded. And then just planning for your home too, making sure it's, furnace is ready to go and how to take action if something does break. Have phone numbers ready and know who you're going to call, because when things break, it's always when it's the coldest night of the year. So, just planning to be safe on the roads and keep yourself safe at home.
What kind of things do we need to keep in our vehicles, Ed, for those? You talked about maybe some treacherous winter weather coming our way this year. And if we're having to travel, what do we need to have handy in our vehicles?
Yeah, typically, I have a small shovel. You never know. And I also throw, I replace it when it gets frozen, but have some water in there, some protein bars. I generally try to have a blanket, something warming to keep me, keep the body heat that you have. Just so you can have a way to persist in your vehicle if you end up becoming stranded. Sure. Some other things you can throw in there: gloves, mittens, something to flares at times people have used, but something flashing that is battery operated, maybe, that you can make sure your car's visible.
Very good. Ed, on that note, got to let you go, my friend. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is my guest on the Zoom Network. News is now.